Chapter 5, The Dictionary of Cyber Threats. 5.1 Cyberbullying. A. Verbal harassment and abuse. This type of cyberbullying involves using electronic communication to insult, demean, threaten or intimidate someone. Verbal harassment can take the form of name-calling, mocking and humiliating someone publicly or in private messages. B. Exclusion and isolation. This form of cyberbullying involves intentionally leaving someone out of online groups or activities, or ostracizing them in online social networks. It can also involve spreading rumors or lies about someone to damage their reputation and cause them to be excluded from social interactions. C. Cyberstalking and harassment. Cyberstalking is a form of persistent and unwanted attention that causes fear or distress to the victim. This can include threats, monitoring, and other unwanted behaviors. Harassment can also include repeated unwanted contact or actions that make someone feel uncomfortable or unsafe. D. Impersonation and identity theft. This type of cyberbullying involves impersonating someone else online or stealing their personal information to gain access to their accounts or sensitive data. This can cause significant harm to the victim, as their identity and reputation may be compromised. E. Doxing and online shaming. Doxing is the practice of publishing someone's personal information online without their consent. This can include their home address, phone number, or other sensitive data. Online shaming involves publicly criticizing or humiliating someone on social media or other online platforms, often with the intention of causing embarrassment or shame. Guide against cyberbullying. Think before you post. Always take a moment to think before posting or sharing something online. Consider if your words or actions could be harmful or offensive to others. Be respectful. Treat others online the same way you would in person. Be respectful, kind and considerate. Stand up to bullying. If you witness someone being bullied online, don't ignore it. Speak up and let the person know that their behavior is not acceptable. Protect your personal information. Keep your personal information private, including your full name, address and phone number. Never share your passwords with anyone. Report cyberbullying. If you or someone you know is being bullied online, report it to the appropriate authorities. Most social media platforms have a reporting function, and you can also contact local law enforcement if the bullying is severe. Keep a record. If you are being cyberbullied, keep a record of the messages or posts. This can be useful if you need to report the bullying or seek legal action. 5.2 Cybercrime. A. Financial fraud and theft. 1. Phishing and social engineering. This involves using deception and manipulation to obtain sensitive personal and financial information from individuals, such as passwords or credit card numbers. 2. Credit card fraud and identity theft. This involves using stolen or forged credit cards, or illegally obtaining personal information, to make unauthorized purchases or transactions. 3. Online banking and investment scams. This involves using fake websites or emails to trick individuals into giving up their online banking or investment account information, or making fraudulent investment offers. Guide against a cybercrime. Be wary of unsolicited emails or phone calls requesting personal or financial information. Always verify the authenticity of websites and emails before entering sensitive information. Use strong, unique passwords for all online accounts and enable two-factor authentication when possible. Regularly review bank and credit card statements to check for unauthorized transactions. Keep software and antivirus programs up to date to protect against malware and other threats. B. Intellectual property theft and piracy. 1. Copyright infringement and piracy. This involves unauthorized use, distribution, or sale of copyrighted materials such as music, movies, or software. 2. Trade secret theft and corporate espionage. This involves stealing or disclosing confidential business information or trade secrets, for competitive advantage or financial gain. Respect copyright and licensing agreements for music, movies, and software. Avoid using or distributing unauthorized copies of copyrighted materials. Protect confidential business information by limiting access to it and ensuring secure storage. Use legal and secure methods for transferring or sharing sensitive data. Implement security measures, such as firewalls, encryption, and access controls, to protect against unauthorized access or theft of intellectual property. C. Online harassment and abuse. 1. Cyberstalking and harassment. This involves using electronic communication to repeatedly harass or intimidate an individual or to engage in unwanted and threatening behavior. 2. Revenge porn and sextortion. This involves the non-consensual sharing or distribution of intimate photos or videos of an individual, with the intent to harm or extort them. 3. Hate speech and online discrimination. This involves the use of electronic communication to make derogatory or discriminatory comments or to promote hate speech. Consider using privacy settings to limit who can view your social media profiles or online activity. Do not share intimate photos or videos with anyone who you do not trust completely. Consider using apps or services that allow you to send and receive sensitive information with extra security and privacy measures. Use online forums and social media platforms responsibly, and avoid posting derogatory or discriminatory comments or content. D. Cyberterrorism and espionage. 1. State-sponsored hacking and cyberattacks. This involves the use of cyber tactics by governments or state-sponsored actors to conduct espionage, disrupt or disable critical infrastructure, or to launch cyberattacks on other nations or organizations. 2. Cyber warfare and sabotage. This involves using cyber tactics to launch attacks on military or government targets, or to sabotage critical infrastructure such as power grids or transportation networks. 3. Information theft and espionage. This involves using cyber tactics to gain access to sensitive information, such as trade secrets or government intelligence, with the intent to use it for financial gain or other purposes. Keep your software and operating systems up to date with the latest security patches and updates to help prevent vulnerabilities that could be exploited by cyber attackers. Use strong, unique passwords and two-factor authentication to protect your online accounts from unauthorized access. Be cautious of phishing emails or other messages that attempt to trick you into revealing sensitive information or downloading malware. Use encryption to protect sensitive data and communications from interception or hacking. Use reputable antivirus and anti-malware software to help prevent infections and intrusions. Avoid using public Wi-Fi networks or unsecured networks, especially when accessing sensitive information or conducting financial transactions. Regularly back up important data and files to help prevent data loss in case of a cyberattack or breach. Consider using a virtual private network, VPN, to encrypt and protect your online activity and data. Educate yourself and others on best practices for cybersecurity and stay informed about the latest threats and tactics used by cyber attackers. 5.3 Hacking practices. A. Phishing and social engineering. 1. Email phishing. This involves sending fake emails that appear to come from legitimate sources, with the aim of tricking individuals into revealing sensitive information or clicking on a link that installs malware. 2. Spear phishing. This is a targeted form of phishing that involves researching and tailoring the attack to a specific individual or organization. 3. Voice phishing. This involves using voice messages or phone calls to deceive individuals into revealing sensitive information, such as credit card numbers or passwords. 4. Text message phishing, smishing. This involves sending fraudulent text messages that appear to come from a legitimate source, with the aim of tricking individuals into revealing sensitive information or clicking on a link that installs malware. B. Malware and viruses. 1. Trojan horses and backdoors. These are types of malware that can give an attacker remote access to a victim's computer or network. 2. Ransomware and extortionware. These types of malware encrypt a victim's data and demand payment in exchange for the decryption key. 3. Adware and spyware. These types of malware can track a victim's online activity or display unwanted ads on their computer. C. Denial of service attacks. 1. Distributed denial of service, DDoS attacks. This involves overwhelming a server or network with a flood of traffic from multiple sources. 2. Application layer attacks. This involves targeting specific applications or services to overwhelm them with traffic, causing them to crash or become unavailable. D. Social media and email scams. 1. Advance fee scams. These scams involve convincing individuals to pay upfront fees in exchange for a promise of a future financial reward or benefit. 2. Lottery scams and phishing scams. These scams involve persuading individuals to pay money in exchange for a chance to win a prize, or tricking them into revealing sensitive information. 3. Tech support scams and clickbait. These scams involve using deceptive tactics to trick individuals into downloading malware, or paying for unnecessary technical support services. Activity idea, unbreakable password. Materials. Pen and paper. List of common password requirements, example, at least 8 characters, upper and lower case letters, numbers, symbols. Estimated time, 60-90 minutes. Instructions. Begin by discussing the importance of using strong, unique passwords for online accounts. Review the common password requirements and emphasize the importance of not using the same password for multiple accounts. 10-15 minutes. Divide the group into pairs or small teams. 5-10 minutes. Instruct each group to come up with a system for generating strong, unique passwords that are easy to remember and can be customized for each website. 20-30 minutes. Each group should create a chart or diagram to illustrate their password system. The chart should include a step-by-step process for generating a password, as well as a list of websites and corresponding passwords generated using the system. 10-15 minutes. Once the groups have completed their charts, ask them to share their password systems with the rest of the group. Encourage questions and discussion about the strengths and weaknesses of each system. 15-20 minutes. As a group, identify the best aspects of each system and create a new, collaborative password system that incorporates these elements. 10-15 minutes. Have each participant create a list of their online accounts and use the collaborative password system to generate a unique password for each account. 10-15 minutes. Finally, have participants test their new passwords on a few different websites to ensure that they meet the password requirements and are easy to remember. 5-10 minutes. Recommended YouTube channels. Threat Post. This channel covers the latest cybersecurity news, including information on the newest cyber threats and how to protect against them. With daily updates and expert analysis, Threat Post is a valuable resource for anyone looking to stay up to date on the latest threats to their digital security. The Hacker News. This channel covers breaking news in the world of cybersecurity, including updates on the newest cyber threats, data breaches, and other related topics. The channel features interviews with industry experts and in-depth analysis of the latest cybersecurity trends. Cybercrime Magazine. This YouTube channel features interviews with cybersecurity experts and leaders from around the world. The channel covers a wide range of cybersecurity topics, including emerging threats, cybersecurity trends, and cybersecurity best practices. The videos are informative and insightful, providing valuable perspectives from industry leaders on the state of cybersecurity today. Crime versus hate crime. Hate crime is a specific form of crime in which the motivation of the offender to commit the crime is caused by the hate towards the victim's identity, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, etc. Several countries in the world view hate crime as a specific form of crime that requires a different approach and strategy to be overcome. Sometimes, in such countries, punishment for hate crimes is much more severe. It is up to the investigation to find out if the motive of the crime is hate or not. On the other hand, some countries don't differentiate crimes from hate crimes and they don't count hate crimes independently as a separate category. Hate crime scenarios. 1. Race. Hate crime scenario. 2 days ago, a young Chinese man was killed in the Colchester neighborhood. As neighbors told the police, the murderer was shouting that America was for only Americans and not for the Chinese people. Non-hate crime scenario. 2 days ago, a young Chinese man was killed in the Colchester neighborhood. As neighbors told the police, the murderer was just protecting himself as the Chinese man tried to grab his bag. 2. Religion. Hate crime scenario. Yesterday, 2 guys attacked the synagogue, destroyed the religious objects and stole luxury items from there. They also left several swastika symbols on the walls of the synagogue. Non-hate crime scenario. Yesterday, two guys attacked the synagogue, destroyed the religious objects and stole luxury items from there. 3. Sexual orientation. Hate crime scenario. Two bisexual women were beaten, last night, by a young man who was shouting and wearing a t-shirt with the message, "Homosexuality is immoral." Non-hate crime scenario. Two bisexual women were beaten, last night, by a young man. As their friends told the police, the argument was caused by the incident in the bar, when the accused man saw the women dancing with other guys. Activity ideas: crime versus hate crime. Activity 1. Within your group, define hate crime in your own words. Activity 2. Discuss and decide. Read the following scenarios and discuss in groups if the crime was motivated by hate or not. State the reasons. Scenarios. On December 28, a young man was killed by a group of people. As viewers told the police, the guy had a Jewish kippah on his head. Hate. This morning, robbers broke into the church and took valuables. Not hate. This morning, robbers broke into the church and took away valuables. Hate. A young Jewish girl was harassed in front of the church. People shout at her that Jesus was killed by the Jews, so she has no right to walk by the church. Hate. A Turkish restaurant was attacked by a group of people. Several valuables were stolen and, as the restaurant owner reported to the police, the robbers were calling him Turkophobic words in the Armenian language. Hate. Activity 3. Create two similar crime stories in which one of them will be motivated by hate. Highlight the parts which make it clear that the crime is motivated by hate. Activity 4. Discuss the following questions. How can hate crime affect the whole society? Why is it important to count the number of hate crimes separately? Do you think hate crimes should be more punished? What can be done to decrease the number of hate crimes? What can you do to decrease the number of hate crimes? What is a hate incident? A hate incident is similar to a hate crime, but it can be any hate-motivated incident, not primarily the incidents that include criminal offenses, something that breaks the local law. Unlike hate crimes, some types of hate incidents in general can be lawful. We might face hate incidents every day around us at educational centers, universities, in the streets or on social media. Hate incidents are also motivated by hostility towards the victim's identity. This can be gender, race, nationality, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, religion, or disability. Examples of hate incidents: name-calling, insulting jokes, offensive graffiti work that does not damage someone's property, intimidation, abusive text messages or social media comments, displaying materials with hateful messages in public spaces. Hate speech is one type of hate incident. In many countries, hate speech is legal, but it has a bad impact on individuals or society in general. You might not be able to sue an individual for the hate incident, but you can always speak up and defend the victim of the hate incident. Remember that hate incident might harm one's mental health, so it is always to stand with the oppressed. Hate incidents can decrease the sense of safety in the victim and they can have negative outcomes on the quality of productivity. In some cases, hate incidents and crime might lead to suicidal behavior, especially in LGBTQI+ youth, drug use, depression, emotional suppression, etc. Activity ideas. Activity 1. Discuss the following questions. What is the difference between a hate incident and a hate crime? Make an example of a hate incident that is not a hate crime. Have you ever come across a hate incident? Describe it. How have you been impacted by this incident? Have you ever reported a hate incident? Why? Why not? What can we do to support those affected by this incident? Have you ever done something to support the victim? What do you think the consequences should be for those who commit hate crimes or hate incidents? Activity 2. Role play. Needed materials: paper, pens. Instructions. Divide the group into two teams, victims and perpetrators. Each group should come up with a scenario for a hate crime. Each scenario should include the type of hate crime, the location, the victims, and the perpetrators. Each team should present its scenarios to the whole group. The group should choose one scenario and prepare a role play for it. Role play should be followed by a discussion of how the victims, perpetrators, and witnesses felt. Discuss how the situation could have been handled differently. Recommended movies. The Hunting Ground, 2015. This documentary explores the issue of campus sexual assault in the United States, including the ways in which hate crimes can be motivated by misogyny and other forms of prejudice. The movie highlights the ways in which sexual violence can be used as a tool of oppression, and explores the psychological impact of these crimes on survivors. The 13th, 2016. This documentary examines the ways in which racial inequality has been perpetuated by the U.S. criminal justice system, including the disproportionate impact of hate crimes on communities of color. The movie explores the history of racial oppression in the United States, and offers insights into the ways in which systemic racism can contribute to hate crimes. White Right, Meeting the Enemy, 2017. This documentary follows journalist Dr. Khan, as she meets with white nationalists and other members of the far right in the United States and Europe. The movie explores the psychology of hate and offers insights into the ways in which hate crimes can be motivated by fear, anger, and other forms of prejudice. Types of hate incidents. In the previous chapter, we discussed hate incidents and differentiated them from general hate crimes. This chapter will introduce you to different types of hate incidents and enable you to easily recognize hate incidents around you. 1. Harassment, unwanted or unwelcome verbal or physical behavior, such as teasing, name-calling, intimidation or bullying. 2. Physical violence, attacks, assaults or other violent acts, including murder, arson or vandalism. 3. Threats, verbal or written threats of harm, such as death threats or threats of property damage. 4. Property damage, damage to property, including graffiti, arson or other vandalism. 5. Cyberbullying, abusive comments or messages, such as racism or sexism, sent through social media or other digital communication platforms. 6. Discriminatory exclusion, denial of access to services, resources or opportunities, based on one's identity. 7. Discrimination, unfair treatment or exclusion based on one's identity. 8. Intimidation, creating an intimidating, hostile or oppressive environment, through words or actions. Even today, hate incidents are very common. Still, people are discriminated against on the basis of their religion, race, gender, sexual orientation, or age. Here are some cases of hate incidents that took place in the 21st century. The Christchurch mosque shooting. On March 15, 2019, a white nationalist terrorist attacked 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand. He killed 51 people and injured dozens more. New Zealanders stood in solidarity with their Muslim neighbors and supported the Muslim community. Orlando nightclub shooting. On June 12, 2016, a 29-year-old man who was connected to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, attacked an Orlando gay nightclub with a gun, killing 49 people and injuring 53 others. The Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. On October 27, 2018, Robert Bowers, a 46-year-old white man, opened fire in the Tree of Life Synagogue, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, killing 11 people and wounding 6 others. Bowers reportedly yelled, "All Jews must die," as he opened fire. Thousands of civil rights activists have fought against hate incidents, including discriminatory exclusion, and shown the world an example of how to fight against inequalities. Here is the story of some of them. Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was an African-American civil rights activist who refused to give up her seat to a white man in a segregated bus, in 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama. She violated a city ordinance and, as a consequence, she was arrested. Her action led to a 381-day bus boycott organized by Martin Luther King Jr. As a result, the Supreme Court of the United States of America ruled that the segregation laws were unconstitutional. Rosa Parks still remains as one of the prominent figures in the fight for racial equality in the United States of America and the whole world. Dick Leach. Dick Leach was an American civil rights activist and an important figure in the early gay rights movement in the United States. In 1966, Dick and his 3 friends entered Julius Bar in Greenwich Village, declared themselves as a gay man and asked the bar to be served. At that time, selling alcohol to homosexuals was prohibited. This act of civil disobedience was widely spread in the press at that time, and resulted in the overturning of a New York State Liquor Authority regulation, barring the sale of alcohol to homosexual people. The British Suffragette Movement. The British Suffragette movement was a political movement that began in the late 19th century, and lasted until the early 20th century. The main motive for the protesters was to gain the right to vote for women in the United Kingdom. The movement was led by Emmeline and Christabel Pankhurst and the Women's Social and Political Union, WSPU. Suffragettes employed a variety of tactics, such as protests, marches, and hunger strikes, to draw attention to their cause. The movement succeeded in 1918, when the Representation of the People Act was passed, granting the right to vote to women over the age of 30 who met certain property qualifications. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was the leader of the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, in the 20th century. He was involved in civil disobedience campaigns advocating for human rights and equality. To organize a sabotage campaign against the government in 1961, he created a paramilitary wing under the African National Congress. Later in 1964, Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was only released in 1990. After leaving the prison, Mandela continued his hard work against inequality and apartheid. He successfully negotiated with the government to end the apartheid. In 1994, Nelson Mandela was elected as the President of South Africa. Activity ideas. Activity 1. Discuss the following questions. What are the differences between hate crimes and hate incidents? What are some of the most common forms of hate crimes? Invent the stories of 2 hate incidents that are not hate crimes. What are some of the methods used to prevent and address hate crimes and hate incidents? How can members of the community work to support those affected by hate crimes and hate incidents? How often do you face cyberbullying? What do you do when you see someone cyberbullied? Activity 2. Using online tools, look for the information about the following incidents, discuss them within groups and then present them to the whole team. Decide whether those events are hate crimes or hate incidents. Group 1, 2009 Holocaust Memorial Vandalism in Des Moines, Iowa. Group 2, 2012 Attack on a Sikh Temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Group 3, Unite the Right Rally, 2017. Group 4, Massa Amini Death, 2022. Group 5, Quebec Mosque Shooting, 2017. Group 6, Westboro Baptist Church Rally. Activity 3, True or False? Hate crimes and hate incidents involve the same type of behavior. Hate crimes are motivated by prejudice or bias. A hate incident does not have to involve physical harm. A hate crime is an act of violence that is motivated by prejudice or bias. Hate crimes are always criminal acts. Activity 4, Describe the poster. Using online tools, search for Soviet or Nazi posters that humiliate certain groups, Jews, Americans, believers, sexual minorities. Describe the poster and explain what methods are used to show any of the above-mentioned groups negatively. Why is hate speech harmful? Hate speech is any type of communication that is intended to degrade, intimidate or incite violence or prejudice against a person or group based on their race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, religion or other immutable characteristics. It includes slurs, epithets, insults and other forms of verbal, written or visual communication that attack or demean a person or group. As with any other form of hate, hate speech also has negative effects on individuals or groups. Here are some reasons why hate speech is harmful. First of all, hate speech can perpetuate different stereotypes that people form about certain vulnerable groups. A stereotype is a generalized idea or image about a particular group of people. Sometimes stereotypes can be viewed as fun and harmless, but they can also have a bad psychological effect on the members of certain groups. Moreover, hate speech and especially stereotypes can incite violence against marginalized groups. Furthermore, hate speech creates an environment of intolerance and hatred, which can lead to feelings of alienation and marginalization. Hate comments or attitude toward the members of marginalized groups stops the process of integration, and the communities no longer benefit from diversity and from the values that can be created by the oppressed minorities. Nowadays, we can see thousands of migrants fleeing their home countries, where they are oppressed to find a safer place with more opportunities. In such cases, the oppressor country always loses the value that could be created by the individuals who decided to flee. Also, hate speech can lead to trauma, anxiety, and depression, which can have serious repercussions for those who are the targets of hate speech. Hate speech can have different forms, depending on to whom it is directed. Types of hate speech. Racism, speech that denigrates or insults people based on their race, skin color, or national or ethnic origin. Sexism, speech that discriminates against or targets a particular gender or sex. Homophobia, speech that discriminates against or targets people based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. Religious discrimination, speech that discriminates against or targets people based on their religious beliefs. Xenophobia, speech that expresses hatred of people from other countries or cultures. Ableism, speech that discriminates against or targets people with disabilities. Ageism, speech that discriminates against or targets people on the basis of their age. It might be hard to end hate speech around the world, but you can start fighting against it in your local community. Remember to always speak up when you see injustice and stand with the oppressed. Activity ideas. Activity 1. Discuss the following questions. How do you define hate speech? How can one differentiate hate speech from other speech? Should hate speech be free speech? What strategies can we use to combat hate speech? What role can technology play in preventing and countering hate speech? Activity 2. Debate. Some people, Group A, believe that the way to fight hate speech is to make it illegal and punish all of those who use it, while other people, Group B, disagree and think that hate speech is part of free speech and can be only eliminated by education and by spreading better ideas. Divide into two groups and each person should defend their opinion with additional arguments. Activity 3. Scenarios. How will you act? Read the following scenarios and in groups decide how you will act. Compare the results and discuss better ways to respond to hate speech. Scenarios. Someone made a comment in class that is dismissive of another person's religion. A student posts a comment on a forum that is racist and offensive. Someone spray paints a swastika on a public building. A person at a public park verbally assaults someone because of their sexual orientation. A user posts a series of inflammatory and insulting comments about a particular religion on an online discussion board. Activity 4. Hate speech word cloud. On a poster, write all the words that are connected to the prevention of hate speech. Read all the answers. Why are some adults haters? Why do they produce hate speech? The reason why some adults are haters is complex and can be grouped into several categories. Hate caused by childhood trauma and fear insecurity. Hate caused by jealousy. Hate caused by the hardness of accepting new ideas. Hate caused by low self-esteem. Hate caused by unacceptance of oneself. Hate caused by childhood trauma and fear insecurity. Sometimes, hate in adults is caused by childhood trauma that causes fear and insecurity. Childhood trauma can include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, war, neglect, bullying, witnessing violence, natural disasters, or the death of a loved one. Childhood trauma can have a long-lasting effect. For someone who has childhood trauma, professional help is very important. In order to overcome childhood traumas, a safe environment, mindfulness activities, and self-care are vital. Hate caused by jealousy. Sometimes, hate is caused by jealousy of others. One can be jealous of someone's achievements or success. Jealousy is a very common reason for hate among people. A jealous adult might feel resentful and bitter, might have hateful thoughts, and sometimes might act hatefully. Adults who easily get jealous have not realized that our successes and failures do not define our worth. Hate caused by the hardness of accepting new ideas. Sometimes, hate actions are caused by intolerance of new ideas. New ideas can challenge originally held opinions. However, some people find it hard to accept that they were wrong, so they cling to traditional thinking and they refuse to consider alternative points of view. Hate caused by low self-esteem. Self-esteem is one of the forces that drive our interaction with other people. Low self-esteem often causes insecurity, worthlessness, and inadequacy, which can lead to feelings of hatred toward others. Low self-esteem often causes envy, resentment, anger, and aggression towards others. Hate caused by unacceptance of oneself. Sometimes, people hate themselves because of certain characteristics, but as they cannot change it, they attack other people with the same traits. This is very often practiced by LGBTQ+ people who fear expressing themselves, and in contrast, they attack other LGBTQ+ individuals just to hide their orientation or to decrease their self-anger. Normally, such actions are common in a homophobic environment. Once an individual is free to express oneself, such anger disappears or decreases. Activity ideas. Activity 1. Discuss the following questions. Have you ever encountered a hate that was caused by jealousy? Please, describe the case and discuss how the hater acted. What do you think motivates people to engage in hatred and discriminative behavior? What role do our emotions play when it comes to hatred and discrimination? How can we better educate ourselves and others around us to prevent hatred and discrimination? Activity 2. Write a letter to a hater. Constructively express your feelings and write a letter to a hater. Try to convince them to give up hating. Activity 3. Debate. Some people believe that it is important to respond to hate comments on social media and criticize the haters, while others oppose and think that with such actions haters get satisfaction, so it is important to neglect them. Divide into 2 groups, so that each person defends their opinion with additional arguments. Activity 4. Debate. Discuss the next question in groups. Which societal factor can form a hater from a normal adult? Create a poster with all possible answers, in groups. What is a digital wound? Why do they spread so easily? A digital wound is a type of injury that is caused by several digital factors, including cyberbullying, identity theft, data breaches, and other malicious uses of technology. In all cases, digital wounds are harmful, but they can be grouped into 3 categories, according to the form of harm. Digital wounds can cause emotional, physical, or financial harm to an individual. Emotional harm. Emotional harm is generally caused by random social media activity, cyberbullying, or digital intimidation. It can have different levels depending on the content. Emotional harm can be caused by seeing comments on public posts, as well as by receiving threats about sharing personal information, photos, messages online. Some of the things that cause emotional harm might be illegal and punishable, intimidation, but things such as Facebook posts or comments are normally part of free speech, so in this case, only the government is not enough to protect individuals who are harmed, they also need emotional support from other people. Often emotional harm is also caused by various marketing contents that standardize specific things and create expectations of how a person should look, behave, or interact with others. Those who do not fit the standards and do not meet the expectations of their gender, age, or other social norms might see their emotional well-being compromised. Physical harm. Identity theft or malware attacks can be the sources of digital physical harm. Such actions can cause not only minor data loss, but also physical destruction of property. Normally, physical harm can be spread by internet viruses. Knowledge of modern technologies and cybersecurity is the best way to be protected from digital physical harm. Financial harm. Financial harm is a widely spread reason for a digital wound. The lack of knowledge of modern technologies always gives some individuals opportunities to take advantage of other people and steal their money with the help of financial pyramids or scams. Financial harm can also be caused by hacking personal or business accounts. Normally, such actions are illegal, but sometimes people cannot get back what they lost, so it is important to have the skills in modern technologies that will help us to get rid of scammers. Examples of digital wounds. 1 is the target of threats, insults, and other forms of abuse on social media. 1 is repeatedly harassed, humiliated, or embarrassed on social media. 1's actions are tracked on social media, without their consent. 1's personal information is stolen or used without permission. 1 is excluded from certain networks or groups on social media. Digital wounds can be spread easily because the internet and social media are well interconnected. Rumors or harmful information are spread widely, as it goes from person to person very fast. Additionally, digital wounds are often amplified by algorithms that can identify and surface content that has the potential to go viral. It is not always possible to check the content of activities of millions of users on social media, so sometimes harmful content is viewed by millions. It should be noted that it can be difficult to contain or undo the damage once it's been done by digital and harmful content. Activity ideas. Activity 1. Discuss the following questions. Explain the digital wound in your own words. Have you ever had a digital wound? How did you feel? Describe it. How can we differentiate between healthy and unhealthy online interactions? What are the benefits of maintaining a positive online presence? What are the potential consequences of digital wounds? How do you handle criticism or negativity online? Name some examples of physical digital wounds and describe them. How can we use our platforms to build empathy and understanding between people? What can we do, as a society, to help reduce the amount of negative and hurtful comments on social media? What steps can we take to limit the spread of false or damaging information on social media? Activity 2. Debate topics. Should social media companies be held accountable for online harassment? Should governments ban social media for youth to prevent cyberbullying? Is social media a positive or negative influence on society? Is social media a threat to privacy? Should social media companies be allowed to censor content? Activity 3. Create a poster. Put digital responsibility in the center of the poster and create a word cloud. Discuss each answer together with the whole group. Activity 4. Role play. In this activity, participants will role play various scenarios involving social networking sites. Act out typical situations that might include potential harm from social networking sites, such as cyberbullying, privacy violations, identity theft, etc. Activity 5. Create a constitution for the wound-free social network. Brainstorm in small groups and create a constitution for a new social network, which will be digital wound-free. Think about what kind of digital wounds you already read about and make sure your constitution does its best to eliminate them. Discuss your constitution with the whole group. Challenge the constitutions of the other groups by asking them questions.